Following more than a decade of soaring transfer fees and increased transfer activity, the summer 2020 and January 2021 transfer windows were rather more subdued affairs. With most clubs hit hard by the pandemic, there were only a handful of real mega signings, notably in the form of Kai Havertz, Victor Osimhen and Ruben Dias. Meanwhile, a number of clubs did almost no business at all. Spanish champions Real Madrid signed literally no one, meanwhile French champions PSG, who usually spend their summers firing €50 notes out of a cannon in every possible direction, completed only one major deal, for Mauro Icardi, who was already on loan at the club. Some have predicted that the pandemic has forced clubs to scale back long term, and that transfer fees have seen something of a reset. Whether that is true or not, I suspect we are likely to find out over the next few months. Somehow, I cannot see Borussia Dortmund letting go of Erling Haaland on the cheap, and now every man and his dog could be in a bidding war for Jesse Lingard. With most likely a slightly busier transfer window ahead of us, I thought I'd take a look at some players who, should they want them, probably deserve transfers at this point. I won't be including players like Sander Berg, who I think is too good to play in the Championship, but has hardly set the world alight as Sheffield United this season. Instead, I'll be focusing on players who have impressed this season, if not for longer, and really ought to have forced their club's hands at this stage. Here are 7 footballers who deserve big money moves in the summer of 2021. Takuma Asano. We start with one of the less high-profile players in this 7, but someone who will no doubt be very familiar to Arsenal fans. Takuma Asano spent 3 years contracted to the Gunners, but he never registered a single appearance in a competitive fixture for the club. He spent his entire time at Arsenal on loan in Germany, where he won promotion from the second Bundesliga with Stuttgart, but was later relegated from the country's top flight at Hanover. Having seemingly failed to convince anyone that he was good enough to play in either the Premier League or the Bundesliga, the Japanese international joined Partizan Belgrade for just £900,000. Becoming the first Japanese player to sign for the club. That was in the summer before last, and during his debut campaign in Serbia, Asano was impressive but not spectacular, looking as though he might have just found his level within the European game. However, this season has been quite different. A model professional who can play off either flank, Asano is quick, agile, and intelligent in terms of his attacking movement. The 26-year-old has been the star man in the Serbian Superliga this season, with a combined total of 30 goal contributions from 36 appearances. That breaks down as 20 goals and 10 assists, and Asano hasn't taken a single penalty all season. The Serbian Super League ranks 16th in UEFA's league coefficients, and that has to be taken into account. But the way he is playing, it seems likely to me that Asano will get another stab at making it in one of Europe's top leagues before too long. Adam Armstrong. Adam Armstrong made 15 appearances for Newcastle United in the Premier League, failing to find the back of the net during that time. A string of loan moves followed before Armstrong was sold to Blackburn Rovers for around £1.7 million. Ever since, I have said that I think Armstrong will return to the Premier League at some point, whether that is with or without Blackburn Rovers. At this moment in time, it seems increasingly likely that it will be without. I say that because whilst Armstrong has gone from strength to strength in England's second tier at Ewood Park over the last 3 seasons, Blackburn have failed to build upon their 11th place finish last season. At the time of recording, Blackburn are 17th in the Championship table, 21 points off the playoffs and 11 points above the bottom 3. Armstrong, meanwhile, has been one of the division's standout players, with 22 goals and 3 assists from 38 outings. Rapid, two-footed, and capable of scoring all kinds of different goals, I still think Armstrong has plenty of room for improvement, and I think he is capable of becoming not just a Premier League player, but a really good Premier League player. The only stumbling block for Armstrong moving on is Blackburn's supposed £30 million asking price, likely inflated due to the fact that Newcastle United have an enormous 40% sell-on fee wherever Armstrong does end up next. Nonetheless, aged 24 and the Championship's 3rd highest scorer this season, I think he's due another crack at the top flight, and sooner rather than later. Claudinho. Someone whose name has cropped up a couple of times on this channel over the last 12 months, Claudinho is surely now one of the most outstanding uncapped players in all of world football. A product of both the Santos and Corinthians academies, Corinthians sold Claudinho in 2017 when he had only ever played a single game for the club. Following 2 loan moves to Red Bull Brazil, Claudinho joined parent outfit Red Bull Bragantino on a permanent basis in 2019. Whilst his debut campaign for the energy drink-owned top-flight side was impressive, his performances in the 2020 season were on a whole different level. Capable of playing almost anywhere throughout the spine of a team, Claudinho is at his most effective in central or attacking midfield, where he can make those devastating runs into the box and put the ball in the back of the net. That is something that he did 20 times in 50 games last season, in addition to registering 6 assists. The result was practically a clean sweep at the Campeonato Brasileiro end-of-season awards, as Claudinho won ESPN's Best Midfielder, Best Newcomer, and Best Player awards, and the league's own Top Scorer, Best Newcomer, Best Midfielder, and Best Player award. It would be fair to say that the 24-year-old's reputation is now sky high, and it is surprising in some respects that he didn't make Chiche's most recent Brazil squad. What isn't surprising, at all, is the fact that Claudinho is being heavily linked with a move to RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga, Red Bull's flagship franchise, where he will likely get the chance to prove his mettle against Germany's finest next season, and deservedly so, hence his inclusion in this 7. Ryan Gauld. Remember Ryan Gauld? He was nicknamed the Scottish Messi by the Scottish press, following his heroics in helping Dundee United reach the 2014 Scottish Cup final at the age of only 18, a kiss of death if ever there was one. Gauld subsequently signed for Sporting Club de Portugal for £3 million, citing the club's development of the likes of Luis Figo, Nani, and Cristiano Ronaldo as part of his motivation to join them. And then, well, we never really heard much about Gauld again. He went into the Sporting B team, playing arguably a lower standard of football than he had been in Scotland, and he only made 5 first-team appearances for the Portuguese Giants in total. A string of underwhelming loan moves, the last of which was a return to Scotland with Hibs, led most to dismiss Gauld as one of a number of talented teenage prospects who had failed to come good. He then joined second-tier outfit Firenze, who are based in the Algarve, where he ended last season in a magnificent run of form, picking up the division's Player of the Year award and helping Firenze to reach the top flight of Portuguese football for the first time in almost 20 years. A clever and intricate footballer who is fantastic on the ball, whilst others were busy writing him off, Gauld got his head down and focused on improving his own game. He has scored 7 goals and made 5 assists in 25 games so far this season as one of the standout performers in the Portuguese Primeira Liga. And with Firenze seemingly on the verge of relegation, I think it's likely Gauld will be on the move somewhere this summer, perhaps to one of Portugal's big boys. I also think it is mind-boggling that he hasn't yet been capped or even received a call-up to the Scottish national team. And no, before you ask, it's not because he's Finnish. Rodrigo De Paul. Leeds United have been a breath of fresh air in the Premier League this season, and at least since Christmas, they have had few concerns surrounding relegation. It's funny to think then that Marcelo Bielsa missed out on seemingly his 2 primary summer transfer targets, Ben White and Rodrigo De Paul. Whilst White always seemed torn between staying at Brighton and moving to West Yorkshire, De Paul made his intentions to sign for his compatriot pretty unequivocal. The Argentine has been with Udinese since 2016, and his current contract runs until 2024. It seems extremely unlikely that he will see out the full length of that deal though. Whilst others would have sulked at having been denied a move, De Paul has knuckled down and been one of the outstanding players in the Italian game this season. Remarkably versatile, it is in the heart of the Udinese midfield that he has featured predominantly this season, picking passes, driving with the ball, and scoring goals. He has bagged 6 goals and made 5 assists so far this season, but it's really the flair, invention, and intent that he brings to the Udinese midfield that stamps him down as a player of real distinction. With Udinese set to finish in the bottom half of the Serie A table yet again this season, and reports that De Paul is still available for €35 million, I expect someone to cough up the necessary cash this summer. Patson Daka. Say what you like about the various Red Bull franchises across the globe, and I happen to think that they are soulless symptoms of the systemic sanitisation of the modern game, used solely to promote a drink that is terrible for you and still gives me flashbacks to being on a lad's holiday in Malia, but in spite of all that, you cannot fault their phenomenal youth development and recruitment, which ought to be noted and replicated by clubs that aren't used solely to sell drinks when, in the right quantity, will destroy your heart. The latest evidence of that is Patson Daka, Red Bull Salzburg's prolific Zambian number 9. He actually wears the number 20, but I trust that you know what I mean. Signed by Salzburg in 2017, aged only 18, Daka briefly formed one of the most lethal strike partnerships in the history of European football in Austria alongside Erling Haaland, despite barely touching 40 years old when you combined both players' ages. Since Haaland departed for Borussia Dortmund, Daka has become even more prolific. Having scored 64 goals in 115 games for Salzburg in total, the 22-year-old has struck 30 times in 32 games this season, including 23 in 19 in the league. That is Haaland-esque form, and Red Bull now seem concerned that they may lose Daka to a Barcelona or Manchester United rather than shifting him on to RB Leipzig as they had likely hoped. Likened to Samuel Eto'o in terms of his style of play, Daka is quick, clever, and two-footed. And whatever happens, it's hard to see him still being at the Red Bull Arena in Salzburg next season. Harry Kane. I was reluctant to include Harry Kane in this 7, since clearly Tottenham are a much richer and more competitive club than the clubs that every other player in this 7 represents. And I'm well aware that Spurs fans have had to put up with people saying that Kane has to leave Tottenham pretty much ever since his breakout campaign. I have never been that guy, so to speak, up to this point, but I do think the time has come where you couldn't begrudge Harry Kane for moving on from North London. That is not to say that I think he will leave. I think a lot of that will come down to whether or not he actually wants to leave the club. I'm just saying that if he does want to leave, and someone is willing to stump up the likely enormous fee required, I think it would only be right for Tottenham to grant him that move and to wish him well. Aged 27, Kane has now scored 217 goals in 329 games for Spurs, putting him second only to Jimmy Greaves in the club's all-time scoring charts, with almost as impressive a record in terms of his goals per game. This season, Kane is not just the joint top scorer in the Premier League, he also has 29 goals and 16 assists from 42 appearances for Tottenham in all competitions. That is better than a goal contribution per game, and I think a compelling case could be made for Kane having been the outstanding player in English football this season, even in a subpar Tottenham team that looks set to miss out on the top 4 for the second successive year this season. So, whether he wants to leave or not, I have no idea. But I think Harry Kane has more than earned the right to play for one of England or Europe's top clubs. Only a handful of teams could even afford him, with the 2 Manchester teams likely being the frontrunners, and you know that Daniel Levy would be demanding Neymar-esque money for his services. Hopefully, whatever Kane wants will be the outcome this season. Before I leave you, I'm just reminded of a couple of years ago when some people used to say that Tottenham were a better team without Harry Kane. Ha! That is all I have to say on that one. Thank you all as ever for watching. Please do hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on either Twitter or Instagram by the username @HITC Sevens should you wish to do so.